Okay, we're going to try a different format today. Instead of doing the live session, I thought I would do several smaller videos to go over different skills to help you um, do your paper in an organized way so you don't have to watch a 30-minute video. You just watch these little snippets of how to do the different tasks. Okay, so last week you should have done the brainstorming, you found articles, you found 10 articles, and if you read your English 1113 um, paper description, you're only using 5 of those articles. So your job this week is actually to find an article that fits your, find the 5 articles that work for your paper. So I thought I would do kind of a sample of how this process works. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go to the databases. Remember last week we talked about doing using the databases or Google Scholar. If you used websites that were credible, then you use Citation Machine or EasyBib to find the citation and put that into your references page. So this video is going to concentrate on what to do with the article when you find it. All right, so, I think I'll start actually here with this real quick overview of the week because this is the first video you're going to watch. So be sure you do your readings and your video viewing for English 1113. You may see one that was repeated. I guess your professors and I think alike because we had the same video on how to set up your APA paper. Be sure and do that before you begin these videos. Set up your research paper if you haven't already. This is the same paper that you submitted your references on. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips on how to find good quotes, how to pep your quotes, how to cite your quotes, how to complete your outline, and then to go from outline to rough draft. Those are the different videos that we're going to do. You're going to be turning in your outline in 2 different places, but I'm not going to talk about that in this particular video. What I want to do is to talk about how to read your articles and to find quotes that support your paper or your idea. You'll see I have a little 5 steps of the research process listed out here. You completed step 1 and step 2 last week. You're going to continue part of step 2, the reading and annotating articles, and then you're going to start completing your outline in this class. Now, for your English class, your English 1113, you're actually going to be on step 4, which is to write your paper in APA format. Next week, you're going to be revising and editing your paper, and I'll give you some good tips on that. This is going to be another video that I do. It's about APE writing. This is where you'll turn in your outline and then a little bit about the live sessions. All right, so let's go ahead and begin with how to read and annotate an article. So just as a quick review, last week you found how to do research database searches. And so I'm going to quickly go through and I'm going to click on Eric. And then I'm going to find an article, and I'll use a topic that I found very interesting when I was getting my master's, and that was metacognition. That's having students think about their thinking. That was an area that always interested me. So I'm going to type in metacognition, and again, I could see things that pop up. I'm going to focus on education and see what I can find about this. So there's 108 articles. We talked about how to limit those last week. If you haven't watched last week's video, you should do that. Okay, so I'm going to, just for our purposes, I'm going to think about my stance on using metacognition in the classroom before I even see these articles. So do we want our students to think about how they're thinking rather than just counting off things that they got wrong? We actually want them to think about why it's important, what they can do differently next time. So my stance on metacognition is that metacognition is an important part of the learning process. Now, will there be those that oppose that? Yeah. It doesn't sound like there would be, but you could have someone say that it's not necessarily about, students could get confused about the learning. They could think in the wrong way, and then they're thinking about their thinking in the wrong way, and we're just leading them down a rabbit hole. But my stance is still that if students aren't thinking about their mistakes and how to fix those, or why they're making the decisions, then it's not going to be quality. Okay, so I'm going to read this first article titled, Profile of Metacognition of Mathematics Education Students in Understanding the Concept of Integral. Okay, I'm already done. Whatever, I don't understand what all that's going on. So I'm going to go to the next one. Using learning journals to increase metacognition, motivation, and learning in computer information systems education. That's kind of cool. I like that idea, but look at this third one. Metacognition and successful learning strategies in higher education. That sounds pretty good. Sounds like something that I would probably agree with. Okay, so if I get into this article and I decide this is, in fact, the perfect article for me, last week we talked about how to cite this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Cite button so we'll have it ready. We're using APA. Notice my cursor is in the gray box to get it to go up and down. And I'm going to copy and paste this into my paper that's already been formatted for me. You should have already done the formatting, so I'm actually going to skip down to just doing the references. Okay, remember, references, this word, everything needs to be Times New Roman, 12-point font. And the word references needs to be bold. All right. The other thing is we want everything to be double spaced. So that's this button over here and the double. Okay. And when I paste it, it's going to look something like that. I'll talk to you about how to format your references page later in a different video. Okay, so once I find this paper and I know that this is going to be a good one, this is an interlibrary loan. Of course it is. That means I won't be able to access it. Here's a little trick though I learned in researching. Sometimes you can find the article in a lot of different ways, but one way is I can actually click on the article and see if it shows up in Google. Now, I'll want to make sure that it's the same article. And it may or may not work. We may have to go back and do it. But this is good for you to see that sometimes you are just going to have to do a little more work. You do a little more research. All right, so that didn't work. So we're going to go ahead and go back to here, go back to the result list, and continue my search. Metacognition is means to increase the effectiveness of inquiry-based science education. That means that students are going to be asking questions to get to their answers instead of a teacher giving the answers. So I like that idea. There's a PDF full text, so I'm going to go ahead and get the citation. Remember, click Cite over here on the right. Scroll down to APA. And I'm going to add that to my paper. That's good. That'll give us a couple of items to work with later. All right, so I'm going to click on the PDF full text. This is the point of this lesson. Once you have your article, you may be even asking yourself, now what? What do I do? Well, as you read, you're going to set a purpose for your reading. And that purpose in this case is going to be, I need support for my assertion that metacognition is an important piece to the learning process. So you don't want to use the abstract, anything from the abstract, but the abstract is awesome to find out if this is even a good article. So read over the abstract, whatever article that you have, and then if it looks good, Continue reading. I can tell this is going to be an interesting one because they're using what's called quantitative methods. That means they're using numbers to support. Okay, now I happen to know from reading hundreds of these articles through my education that as I read, they're all kind of set up the same. I can read the introduction, kind of introducing the idea, whatever the concept is. Normally, I would say read through the whole thing, and I just need to say, in this case, read through the whole thing. But for our purposes in this video, I'm actually going to scroll down to where I know the juicy stuff is, and that would be in the conclusion or in the recommendations. It's called a few different things. But when I scroll down to the end of the journal articles, discussion is a great place to start, and then conclusions. All right. So this is the basic outline of this particular paper. So I'm going to go to the discussion. And as I'm reading, I want you to see if there's something where they have made a claim based on the research that they did. Okay, so the disciplinary form of inquiry-based teaching espoused by the TSI philosophy advocates students learning science concepts through the process of doing science. Does that sound like it makes the claim that they actually have to do the thinking and the doing rather than just being told what to do? That sounds like a pretty good sentence. We followed this principle by teaching metacognition through aquatic science content using context to generate the thought processes needed for metacognitive reflection. And they go on to say a few more things. Let's see. Let me get to something that's pretty solid. All right, I like these sentences that talk about the previous research. Previous research has indicated that metacognitive skills are difficult to report and assess because they often develop in the absence of conscious reflection. Now it's going to talk about this study. The TSI Aquatic PD gave teachers and their students a common language to communicate the process of science. The TSI terminology, together with a unique reflective TSI phase diagram, generated an awareness. Okay, so that's talking about why it's important. And then it says this awareness of thought process is a crucial component in becoming more metacognitive and is a factor in the development of self-regulation skills, as students with better self-regulation skills are able to learn more efficiently and report higher levels of academic satisfaction. That's a really good sentence, and it's supported by research for sure. And so what would I use out of this in my paper? I'm going to say in this next paragraph, I see some really good sentences that get at the heart of what we're trying to prove. I don't want what other people said. I want to know what this study found. Okay, so teachers' metacognitive abilities, I'm reading this sentence right here, were enhanced through the professional development, that's PD, by scaffolding metacognitive skills, starting with reflection and recognition of complex processes of science and building towards an application of regulation, the sentence goes on forever, of their behavior to achieve lesson goals. So in other words, if teachers are taught how to teach these skills, then it's better for the students. So this sentence really does prove what I'm trying to prove. As you're reading these articles, you're looking for sentences that support your stance. On the other hand, remember, one of your paragraphs that you're going to be writing is a counter argument. And so that counter argument is also going to need to have a piece of proof that comes in. All right, so in another video, I'm going to show you how to take your quote and then put it in APA format in your paper. Okay, so little steps. This is how to read the article and look for quotes. Once you find the quotes, you are going to want to make sure that you know which article it came from. Just go by author's last name, and then what page number it's on. Okay, keep that in mind for the next video.